Hey guys, and welcome back to my wish list that I'm making for Halo 5, things I'd like to see in the game. And this episode I'm going to be talking a lot about vehicles that I'd like to see make a return, and even some new ones that I think would be really cool to have in the game, or at least have as an option in Forge. So let's get started. Alright guys, so the first vehicle I'm going to talk about is the Falcon. The Falcon was a really cool helicopter-like vehicle from Halo Reach. I really like the Falcon because helicopters are always cool to have in games, In most games, helicopters, there's always, some intense, crash scene. There wasn't Halo Reach, you went through the field at the Spire and you got EMP'd. And in Halo 4, they got rid of the Falcon, which was disappointing. I wish, even though you didn't use it in the campaign, you had left it in Forge for us to use in our maps. Even though the maps were, unfortunately, none of them are really big, but hey, you still could have had the Falcon in there. Still could have made it usable. Then Halo 5, some things I'd like to see changed. I would like for all the seats to be accessible. In Halo Reach, in Campaign, you could use all the seats, and Marines could use the other seats. But in multiplayer, the only seats, there could be one driver and two gunners, and you couldn't have it transport other people. And I know they did this to prevent people from getting some easy overkills and, kill-taculars and all that. But I think that in our maps, in our custom games, there should be an option. There should be an option for us to allow people to use all the seats, maybe under vehicle characteristics. Plus, it'd be great for machinima. It's going to be able to, instead of a helicopter that only carries in two people, a Falcon would be large enough to carry in a full squad, which would be really nice. I think they should have a transport Falcon with no guns, and just for bringing in guys, and a heavy Falcon which has grenade launchers on it. I also think that they should keep the chin gun on the Falcon because, without it in multiplayer, if you don't have gunners or if your gunners aren't reliable, then the Falcon has no weapons. The driver can't really defend himself. And the chin gun, maybe they considered it would have been a little too powerful. Maybe you could just bring down the damage a little bit. That'd be a good thing. But I think there should be a weapon that the Falcon pilot can use. So I think they should do that with Falcons and bring them back in Halo 5, at least for Forge, if not in Campaign. I don't really care if they're in Campaign, as long as there's some cool flying vehicles. I'd like to have them available in Forge. So, next vehicle. Alright, next vehicle I'm going to talk about is the Hornet. This is going to be a quick one. Pretty much have the same things to say as the Falcon. If it's not in Campaign, I'd like to have it in Forge. It'd be great for machinima to have different air vehicles for the UNSC for transport. You should have, like in Halo 3, one with rockets, one without rockets that's just for transport. Basically, nothing much. I'd like to see it return in Halo 5 for Forge use, and I'm going to say this a lot, but it's because I really love machinima, and having more vehicles to use and all that stuff is great for machinima, so bring back the Hornet. It's a really fun vehicle, and Falcon too, so don't, give us lots of air vehicles, and Covenant air vehicles too as well, which I'll get to later. Alright, so these next group of vehicles here, I'm not going to talk about individually. I might say a few things about them, but basically I'm going to say what I want to say about these vehicles right here, because these next vehicles are nothing new. They're vehicles from previous Halo games that I would like to see in Halo 5. So I know the reason you didn't include these in your game types, and even if you don't include them in game types, I'd like these to be in Forge, or, as an option for us to use in our maps. I understand you didn't put them in because some of them might just be downright impractical and useless, or completely overpowered, and some of them they didn't make a return. Like I've got here, the AA Wraith, that would be very overpowered in multiplayer. But once again, a lot of these, even if they're not practical for use, if you don't use them in your maps, let us have them for Forge, for machinima, and whatever we're gonna do. So I might say a few things about these vehicles, but mostly this is just going to be, I might just say the name, which game they were in, and that's it. And I'd just like to see them return. The Covenant AA Wraith from Halo 3, which was only featured in Campaign, and you could only drive it if you used a glitch where you had to melee the hood off. The Revenant from Halo Reach. The Revenant is basically a mini Wraith, not as powerful of a cannon, but it was more maneuverable, so it made it more practical for smaller maps. The Shadow from Halo 2. This vehicle was only featured very briefly in the campaign. In the mission in Halo 2, I can't remember the name of the mission right now, but it was the mission where you fought the Scarab in campaign. And at one point in the campaign, I think towards the beginning, you're going through these underground roadway tunnels, and you encountered some of these like little convoy, and they can carry ghosts under them. and troops stand on the top. These wouldn't, I don't really see how these could be practical for gameplay, because most of the maps you're not really going to need to transport people, much less just have them kind of stand on the top and be transported, or transport a ghost under it. But if you filled out one of my bigger, the thing is, these would probably be more used for machinima, maybe like a convoy of these transporting guys. That'd look great for machinima. Although if you did fill out one of my really big requests, up the player cap, increase the map size to like Battlefield crazy, then these could be useful for transporting guys and vehicles. And if you went the extra mile and had maybe a cool button that the driver or the pilot of a ghost could use, and they could attach themselves and detach themselves to the bottom for transport of this thing, that would be really cool, and I really hope you can do that. Another vehicle from Halo 2, the Spectre, which can seat 4 people. It was only used in one of the Halo 2 missions where you played as the Arbiter. I don't think it was in any other missions. 2 people can sit on the side of it. There's a driver and a gunner. This would be great for gameplay and once again for machinima, so it'd be great to see this return in Halo 5. Alright, and the last 2 vehicles I'd like to see returned from a previous Halo game. I'm just going to kind of put them together here. They're both brute vehicles, the Prowler and the Chopper. They'd both be great for machinima and for gameplay. Chopper's a cool vehicle, and so is the Prowler. You can transport people and it can run people over. And once again, it adds more variety to the vehicles you have access to and to mix up the maps so you can really get a feel for what you're going for. If you want brute vehicles, Covenant vehicles, human vehicles, you've got, well, brute are Covenant, but they have their own style. Then you've got all different types, and it would mix things up, keep things fresh, and give us more options, and that'd be great. So this is the end of my section for vehicles I'd like to see return in previous Halos. If there's any other vehicles that maybe I left out that you liked, you could leave a comment or message me, and I could add those in a future video. So now I'm going to move on to some newish. I'm going to talk about the Elephant next, and that's not really returning, but that's something I'd really like to see, and that deserves its own separate topic, because the Elephant was a really cool vehicle that added some great gameplay to the map Sandtrap. So we'll go talk about that now. Alright, so the Elephant. The Elephant it still is a really awesome vehicle. That was a great thing they did in Halo 3. Basically, in my experience, I haven't played like a ton of games, but in my experience, something like this, it's basically, I haven't seen this in a lot of other games. You've got the map Sandtrap, right? It's a pretty big map. The Elephant is big. It can fit a lot of people on. It's got turret defenses, and like your flag and your spawn points are all inside the Elephant. And I believe some weapon spawns were too. And someone can drive that thing around, and it's massive. And that added a whole new element to the game. You could move your flag around. You could move it closer to the enemy's base so that your people could spawn right next to it. Almost like a little boarding action kind of thing. And you could grab the flag, move your Elephant over quickly, get it onto your Elephant, capture the flag, drive away before they could get your flag. It added a ton of way more tactical gameplay to the game. It was a really cool addition, and frankly, I think Forge World was definitely big enough to support Elephant gameplay. If you had given us those to use, even if the limit had only been 2, frankly, I don't like the limit on parts. I understand the budget, because there's only so much memory we can use, but come on, don't put a number limit on our parts in Forge. Even if we had access to just 2, preferably around 4 to 6 of these things, Forge World was definitely big enough to support these things, because these things are awesome. And I'd love to see them return in Halo 5 in Bungie-made maps, and, as a Forge thing. That would be cool. I know having a Mammoth in Forge, which is something I'm going to talk about, that's pretty ridiculous, because the Mammoth, it could crush an Elephant. It's ridiculous. That's a pretty crazy thing to have in a map, at least at the scale the maps are in Halo right now. But an Elephant, I think, is definitely feasible. If you go back to have a Forge World map, Sandtrap wasn't even as big as Forge World, and you still had the Elephant, and it worked great. So definitely want to see them make a return in Halo 5. That would be really cool. Definitely as a Forge item, that would be totally kick-ass, because the Elephant, Sandtrap was just such a cool map. You guys did such a great job with you just did an amazing job with that. That was a totally cool idea, and please bring this back in Halo 5, because I really want to see this thing again. The Elephant is an awesome vehicle, and it has to come back. You have to bring it back, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me that if you allowed us to Forge with this, that would just be incredible what people could do with this. So please bring back the Elephant, and especially in Forge. Alright guys, so last thing I'm going to talk about in this episode of my Halo 5 wish list is, I'd like in Halo 5 for their, whatever the next Halo game is, for there to be longer despawn times. In Halo 4, the weapons and vehicle wrecks and all that despawn way too quick. Weapons going away really fast is annoying because I don't know exactly how long it is, but I feel like I get killed, I run back to get my weapon, like 20 seconds, everything in that area of the map is despawned, and I know you might do it to keep lag down so there's less items, but in Halo 3, the despawn time was a lot longer than that, and it was just cluttered with battle rifles and bodies, and it still ran fine, so I'd really like you to turn up the despawn time, because it's really annoying to have things despawning really quickly, especially with Machinima if you're trying to shoot a big battle scene, and things are just disappearing. It just doesn't work, so please increase the despawn time. That's just a very minor thing, but that's something I would really like you to bring back, just, a little thing, but it really improved the game a lot. Alright guys, that wraps up this episode of my Halo 5 wish list. Please don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.